We're live.
We are live. Nice.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. Monday.
First Monday of April, bruh. Today has been a Monday.
Is it?
Yeah. Like, you know how when people are like, oh, how'd you start your week? I'm like, this is one Monday of a Monday, okay?
What happened?
It was just a lot happening in the office. It just seemed like I never had a moment of just peace. Because you know how, like, in the beginning of the week, you like to kind of see what you have to do for the week, and then you can kind of, go from there.
Yes.
I like to fill in the little parts of my planner that, I can't fill out when I'm taking pictures of it and stuff.
Right.
And I'm like looking at the calendar, seeing all the meetings lined up, and it's like my phone would not stop ringing today.
Wait, ringing because they needed you to do stuff?
Yeah. They needed me to ask, they had questions, they needed help. And I'm just like, listen, it's Monday. Like,
Stressful.
I'm
You're like,
grateful to be at home, but dang.
like, what do you need at this time?
Also, my favorite question, could it not have been an email?
Oh my gosh, it could always have been an email. Always. Well,
Yeah, so,
maybe not always, like 9 times out of 10.
yeah, so I just decided, okay, well, since we're here, we're just going to do it like this and see how we go.
So I'm sorry that your Monday was off to such a rough start.
Yeah, it is what it is. I had a chance to listen to an audiobook, So
Ooh, which audiobook?
I've already started my Throwback-a-thon reads, and obviously I started with my magical realism prompt book first. So
Which one?
we all know it's a reread for me.
Are you talking about Amari and the Night Brothers?
Mm-hmm. Though technically I think I have like 3 books that could have all been for this prompt. So just wanted to read. I wanted to listen to it this time. The first time I read it, so the second time I wanted to listen to it. It's pretty good.
Wait, you are listening to Amari and the Night Brothers?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
I needed a happy place today, so I was like, let me just listen to it. And so it's been nice. I'm like, okay. I still
Doesn't
love
book
it.
2 come out soon?
Yes, thank God. Because I was just thinking as I was listening to this book, like, because I have the audiobook set at 1.5 because to me she talks kind of slow.
Yeah,
and then I was
would
just
agree with
thinking,
that.
like, man, like this is gonna fly. And also, dang, I still don't have the second book, so I can't just read this book and jump right into the next one. Like I still have to wait.
Does it come out in June? I thought it was June.
I think it's June.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
From what I remember, unless it got pushed back.
Yeah, I'm definitely reading this I'm reading the sequel as soon as I can. Like as soon as I can. I will be on Do Not Disturb. I'll probably read it in a day like I accidentally did this one the first time.
I'm afraid to hype it up.
I'm not hyping it up. I'm just saying, like, I personally, it let my imagination fly, and I appreciate them for that.
But, so you never did say what the rest of your TBR is going to be.
Did I never tell you?
No.
Oh, well,
you're doing the all middle grade books, right? Challenge?
Yeah. So while we wait for people to come in and until we get to our 5-minute mark where I do our intro.
I don't think we posted about it on Instagram, which might be.
I did.
Oh, okay, cool.
Even with the link. So for Fuzzy Diaries, I'm reading, I never say this right. It's Nzingha. I assume that's Zinga. But I feel like I'm saying it very American.
Wait, have I ever heard of this book? It's a middle grade book?
It's a middle grade book. It's one of the Royal Diaries books by Patricia Mckissack.
Oh, okay. Spell it again. I'm curious.
It's the only Black queen in the entire series.
Okay, spell her name again.
Nzingha.
Nzinga?
Yeah.
Queen Nzinga of Nando and Matamba.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is very interesting. Okay.
And then for Ripley's Believe It or Not, it's Amari and the Night Brothers.
Okay.
Scary book is Ghost Squad by Clarabelle A. Ortega.
Okay.
Kids on an Adventure, Maya and the Return of the Godlings.
Got it.
And then coming of age story, I don't really know, but I do have this book. It's called Fast Pitch by Nick Stone. And
Ooh.
it's just about a softball girl. And I was like,
She
I don't
writes
think
a
I've
lot
ever
of middle
read,
grade.
huh?
She writes a lot of middle grade.
She does. And I kind of want to dig into it. So I think that's what I'm going to pick for that one. But I'm not quite sure. Also, hey, Leave No Book Behind. Welcome. You are definitely on time.
Yes, you are on time. We're just chatting and talking about our TBRs. I feel like my TBR is very much up in the air right now because I have like a couple picks for several prompts and I'm not sure what to go with. Like
You
for
should do the
the,
thing where you let your dog pick the book, kind of how what Noria used to do with Kung Pop.
I feel like my dogs are just not those type of dogs, you know? Like
You're
not
like,
the
my
type of
dogs do
dogs
not
to
care about
care.
my reading life.
They don't, girl. If I put 2 books in front of these dogs, they probably just look at me, look at these books, look at me. Like, what is she talking about? I may potentially
She's
have a
not
damaged book out
edible.
of this. Actually, let me try
Mckissack.
right now. Teddy's decided to be nosy.
I want to know if he does anything. But
And I
while you
have
do
some,
that, let me say our intro.
okay.
Welcome everybody to Black Prose Club, where Black lives, Black books, and Black authors have always mattered. I am one of your hosts, Brittany, aka Melanin Eclectic, on all platforms.
And I am Oshale of Oshi Reads on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
And if you guys didn't know, Throwbackathon started 2 days ago, and I'm already in a very happy place. I'm about to finish. Well, I am 3 hours into this audio, or 3 hours away from finishing this audiobook. So I'll be done and moving on to my next book. I'll probably be starting the next book tonight. I recommended to Oshale that she try to let her dogs pick her book for some of the prompts that she has 2 books for. And we don't know if it's actually going to work.
I mean, you've already heard how it's going. Not well.
Okay, well, we tried. That's A for effort on your part. Hi, Tati.
Hi, Tati. Welcome. I feel like this year's Throwbackathon, I'm so much more relaxed because we have 2 weeks. Because normally
Yeah,
I have this like low key anxiety during Throwbackathon, like, oh my God, how am I going to read all these books?
I think it's because I tell myself when we do like 1 week readathons, it's like I have to basically read like a book a day.
Exactly.
So it's like I need to pick shorter books because can't be over reading like 400 or 500 pages a day. Like I got to do other things with my life.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, I would literally have to be reading during my lunch break, be reading like the second I get home from work, and then like reading up until like 12 midnight to accomplish that.
So I do like the fact that it's 2 weeks. Plus, with the 2 weeks, like you kind of, I feel like 1, I get to enjoy it more, and then 2, I get to decide which prompts I'm going to participate in. Even though like we made the prompts, I still know which ones I plan on participating in and which ones I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like today's prompt, I have like the Royal Diaries books are the only Scholastic books that I own. So if you guys
Okay.
didn't know, we're doing on our Instagram, Black Prose Book Club, we are doing social media prompts every day. So for the next 2 weeks, every day, you will see a very cool yellow graphic pop up on our Instagram. And it will either be a question that you can answer in our comments, or it could be a posting prompt. Like today's prompt was in honor of the Guinness Book of World Records that you could always get at every book fair. It was post a picture of all the old Scholastic books you own, and then don't forget to tag us. I haven't looked at any tags or anything or any hashtags. But if you are participating, it would be really great if you could tag us and use the hashtag. We just want to see, we want to see people's participations and stuff.
I think it's a little bit harder.
Instagram will be popping in soon.
I think it might be a little bit harder this year just because we didn't really post anything on YouTube. So it might take a little longer to get like the usual participation we have. But I did remember that was our Instagram prompt. And now I'm actually really excited after this podcast to go take a picture with some of my Scholastic books because I have a crap ton of them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I need like I'm gonna call it a nostalgia shelf or something. Hey Bethany, because like I was telling my mom, because according to my mom, she didn't actually get rid of my old Babysitters Club books
Oh,
or my Animorph books or any of those. She said that they are in a Tupperware container in the attic somewhere.
huh.
And so at some point I'm going to have to like figure out how to get them from Maryland because they moved.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out a way to get them because I'm like, Mom, seriously? She's like, yeah. She was like, she's like, they were paperback. So, I just didn't, she's like, I just remember putting them back up in the thing. And I was like, this is crazy. But
Wow.
apparently also, so my mom has scrapbooks for all of us, right? But she has a Tupperware bin full of like, each one of us has our own, I call it a memory Tupperware bin,
That's
where
cute.
it's waterproof and fireproof.
Wow.
And it's like the cards and stuff we used to make her for Mother's Day,
Oh.
like all that kind of stuff. But something else that's in mine, according to my mom, is my fuzzy diary. I was like, woman, why didn't you tell me about any of this?
Oh, that is like peak memories.
I was
Fuzzy
like, I'm
diary.
pretty sure I'm gonna read this and feel like should have seen the therapist, but
Look, I was literally on Amazon when we were thinking of these prompts for Throwback-a-thon. I was literally on Amazon searching up fuzzy diaries because I just had this intense need to purchase one again.
I think I found one on eBay, just like the old ones in the actual, the little magazine that we used to get
Oh,
before
yeah.
the fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they wanted $80 for it. I was like, y'all can live long and suck it. That is not happening.
Oh my God. I don't even want to know
Yeah,
how
I was
much
like,
that
come
was.
on, man.
All right. So my question to you, what was your favorite book that you discovered at the book fair? I know mine, hands down.
Well, mine is a little weird. Okay, so technically, I didn't get my first book from a book fair until I was like 6th grade. We couldn't afford it.
Okay.
So what I used to do is I used to go to the book fairs, and the way that my school did this thing, like if you read a certain amount of books, you would get like tokens, but the tokens were only good for things that weren't books. So
I
I
remember
got
this.
like, an ass load of erasers,
We
some
had
really
this
pretty
too.
glittery pencils, one time I got like the 5-compartment pen. Y'all couldn't tell me nothing about that cheap ass pen. Like that pen was bae for me. But I used to go into the book fair, look at the books that I liked, write them down, and then try to find them at the library.
Oh, that's so
Because
smart.
we was just a little too broke. But then when I finally got old enough to get books, the first book that I got was Babysitter's Club, because there was these 4 girls in my class, and they had been in my class since like the 4th grade, because that was when we moved to a different area. So I was in that one school from 4th, 5th, 3rd, 4th, and 5th was one elementary school. But when I got to 6th grade, I was adamant because I heard these other girls talking about it. So I figured, obviously, the easiest way to get into like this cool girl circle is to read what they read. So I talked my mom into getting the whole subscription.
Oh, I totally talked my mom into that subscription. It lasted for quite some time too, until finally she was like, we're canceling this.
But also, like, that was the first time I'd ever had something mailed to me, and it was
Just
actually
you,
just
right?
for me. Because, everything else you got to share with your siblings, but like no one else was reading Babysitter's Club.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it was like my first piece of like personal mail.
Yeah, I felt like you could not tell me nothing. I really thought that I was doing something. And then get this, like the girls didn't even care about Babysitter's Club. They just liked carrying it around and make it like they were smart.
Oh my God, I can't.
Yeah.
Also, can we just talk about how the Babysitter's Club series was canceled by Netflix, and I am livid.
No!
Livid. They canceled it.
the new series?
Yes.
So we're not getting a season 3?
No.
But
Exactly.
the second season was so good.
Netflix is notorious for this.
Oh my
Notorious.
God.
They will cancel a show before it gets to 3 seasons. And the word on the street is that if a show has a 3rd season, I think they have to like pay the actors more. I think they usually only do a contract for like 1 or 2 seasons, and then if it goes into a 3rd season. So if a show actually gets a 3rd season, it's because it's very popular, like 3 or more seasons if it's a Netflix show. But have you noticed that they all never make it past 2 seasons? If it actually has a 3rd season or 4th or 5th, it's kind of like shocking. But yeah, they freaking canceled it. I'm so pissed.
I am so annoyed.
I was
I feel
so
like every
upset when I
time
heard that.
Netflix gives us something that's cute and like, not too serious, but also serious or good, I'm so annoyed. Oh my
Yeah, they
gosh.
freaking canceled it. And
I was just about to say how I can't wait for season 3
nope, there ain't
because
gonna
I
be
felt
one.
like season 2 was lit. Like the whole Claudia part of season 2 was phenomenal to me.
And that scene with Jessie, like the little side plot with Jessie and the way her mama read
When
her
her
for
mama read her
filth.
for filth.
I know. I'm really disappointed. I was like, I cannot believe they canceled
But
it
this was
already.
like, come on. There was nothing wrong with that show. Well, I
Nope,
mean, there
not a
was
thing.
things wrong with the show, but not like major problems.
I know. I'm really disappointed. Like, I'm
I'm
really,
good.
really disappointed. And it was so wholesome and so just like the nostalgia and the acting was adequate. Like, everything was really good. So I'm not really sure why they canceled it. I think from the article I read, they said something about like season two's ratings were not what they wanted it to be, were not where they wanted it to be. Based off of like the hype that season 1 got, they were surprised that season 2 didn't have more ratings. So it got canceled.
I mean, season 2 definitely dealt with a lot harder topics.
Not just that, but like you have to remember when season 1 came out, like the world was at more of a standstill. A lot of shit was
Yeah.
still
We were in the
closed.
middle of a panoramic. We were desperate for TV.
And I think season 2 wasn't really
We're
promoted the
still in
same
a
way they
panoramic.
promoted season 1. Like I would have never known there was a season 2 if I didn't go looking for it.
They didn't promote it either because it popped up in my things things to rewatch. And the
Yep.
only reason I knew that there were new episodes was because it came up on the bottom of the thing in red that said new episodes.
Yeah, they didn't
So
promote it.
they also didn't advertise it for crap.
No.
So
It's
I
like
feel like this is Netflix's fault.
how can you cancel something and say that it was because of low ratings when you didn't market it at all?
Right. Just it's fine. It's fine.
It's not fine, but we'll move on. I just had to like bring that in because when you started talking about it, I just remembered and I just got upset all over again.
Oh my gosh. Bethany says, I think my favorite books from the book fair were the Amelia books. Not Amelia Bedelia, but Amelia's notebook ones.
I don't know if I remember
I'm
that.
trying to get a visual of not Amelia, because when you say Amelia Bedelia, I immediately get the visual. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Please refresh me on Amelia's notebooks
I wish you
because
could drop like photos in the
I
chat.
know I'm about to Google it. Hold on, let me get my keyboard because I moved my keyboard out the way. We about to figure this out. Amelia's notebooks. Give
Oh
me a
my gosh. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry destroyed my soul as a child. I
Oh
remember
my
reading it in the 4th
god.
grade and just never, no, I think it was 5th grade, and just never being the same again. Like, rocked to my core. To this day, that book triggers me so bad. I still have like my super old copy that I got from when I was a kid, and it's all like tattered and torn, and it's just on my shelf. And I'm just like, I will probably never reread this book ever in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, never say never, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, trauma. But it was so good. It was
Okay.
just so real. It told the
I think
story
that
of a
probably was
family.
one of the most intense books I read as a child.
Right? It was like that book, Bridget Terabithia,
I don't
was
talk about Bridget Terabithia. Like I think I blocked it out of my brain.
Where the Red Fern Grows. Oh, Where the
Ugh.
Red Fern Grows was devastating. Old Yeller, Sounder. There was like a list of books that is just like Would you like all happiness and joy to be torn from your soul? Read this
Would you
book.
like all happiness and joy to be torn from your soul?
It's true. Like, and you know, and like whenever like my teacher would see us pick up one of those, she would just be like, "Oh, yes, that's a good one." And that's when you knew you were like, "I'm about to be destroyed."
It's like my feeling they're about to be hurt, huh? You're about to do
Mhm.
it again,
Yep.
again.
In high school, it was like all of the books that they forced us to read about race relations that were actually really infuriating, but we still had to read them anyway, like To Kill a Mockingbird.
Bruh, I told you I got kicked out of class for To Kill a Mockingbird. So
Mm, mm, mm.
I just, okay. So Amelia's Notebooks, when I Google it, it's literally the book that looked like a composition notebook.
Oh,
And it was like Amelia's guides to, Amelia's guide to boys, Amelia's friendship survival guide, Amelia's middle
gotcha.
school graduation yearbook.
Oh,
Like,
that's
but
cute.
but the outside of the book looked like composition notebooks. And I remember this now because I literally tried to make my own survival guide
Really?
because composition notebooks were cheap back then. So it was
They
like
sure
20
were. They
cents.
were like
I
94
literally
cents.
tried to make my own survival guide. And mine was surviving having siblings that you don't want.
Not that you don't want. Brittany.
Because I remember my mom finding it and being like, what is this?
Oh my God, Brittany. Not that you don't want. Oh,
Man.
I
Oh
cannot.
my gosh.
Oh man. Yeah, I think my very favorite book I found at the book fair is when I found Little Women, because my teacher had this section in her classroom of abridged classics. So it was all the classics, but it was all abridged. So it wasn't the full story. It was just like the gist of the story, but it was hard because it was
So they were
still actually
Spark Notes, basically?
basically, but they were still like written out. Like they were still like novels, but they were not as long as the originals and they didn't contain everything, like every detail. Anyways,
Oh.
so they're called abridged classics and there were a bunch of them. There was like The Count of Monte Cristo and like um
I
I
actually
can't
never read that one.
I'm blanking on them, but basically every like Tom Sawyer and another problematic book. Just like all the classics. And I remember the Little Women classic because I would read it all the time. But I knew that it was abridged. But that's what she had in the classroom. So and it had pictures and like so when I went to the book fair and they had the actual full version of Little Women, over 500 pages.
So
I
cheated.
was so excited and I like begged my mom. I was like, we have to get this.
Oh my gosh. So that was your first major book, Little Women?
That was the first like big quote unquote big book I read like before I started reading Harry Potter series when I was little, like by myself. And, you know, I think was that the first big one? I mean, I read Great Expectations, but Great Expectations is not like super, super long. So yeah, that was my first like giant book.
Hmm. I can't remember what my first giant book was, but no, like I definitely Wait, you said before you took your parents let you read Harry Potter when it first came out?
I love my Harry Potter origin story because and I'm dead serious. And I will forever love my dad for this because I remember I was in the 6th grade, or it was either the summer before the 7th grade or the summer before 6th grade. I cannot 100% remember. I'll have to ask him. But he just like comes home from work one day. It's like the summer, and he's like, "I have something for you." And I was like, "Huh." And he like whips out this book, and it's called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, not the Sorcerer's Stone.
Ooh.
And I'm like, what's this? And he's just like, oh, like, so my dad used to write like academic books and whatnot. He doesn't do it as much anymore, but he used to publish. And so he was like, my publisher from the UK sent me this and said that this children's author is about to come out. It's about to come out in America and they think it's going to be really big. So they sent me a copy. Here you go. And I was like, huh, okay, interesting. And then I started reading it. And then I just kept reading it and I'd be at the dinner table reading it. and I'd be like asleep under the covers with my flashlight reading it. And my mom was like, you have created a monster. Like, she will not put the book down. And I just became obsessed. And then like a couple months later, it came out in America as Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So then my dad bought me the American copy, and the rest is history.
Oh, wow.
So it was totally my dad. And then my mom went to this whole thing about like, oh, this is demonic, blah, blah, blah. And my dad was like, no, it's a story that has magic that is for kids, and she can read it.
Nah, okay, so my parents were your mother. The moment I mentioned Harry Potter, it had already gotten to the church, and the pastor was already on the pulpit talking about, you see what they're trying to do to our kids. They're trying to give children stories in the form of witchcraft. Did you hear about this foolishness they're calling Harry Potter? I remember it vividly because one, I was reading far above my age group at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, because wasn't Harry Potter technically advertised like 8 to 12-year-olds?
It was. It was like the first book was a middle grade book.
Yeah, like it was like 8 to 12-year-olds or something like that.
Or not even middle grade. It was a children's book.
I remember because I was 8 at the time. So at the time, I was only allowed to read books above my age group if my mom had approved it. Because, they might have caught me in a couple sections I shouldn't have been in a couple times in the library.
Lord.
Cool. But like, I remember because I had told my parents about the book because everybody at school was talking about it, and they was going to go to the store, and my mom had gone with her little homegirls and came back and said that she will not be letting me read that book because she heard about it from, I think her name was Miss Rhonda at the time.
Lord.
Man, listen.
She ruined things for you.
Do you know when my mom started changing her mind about Harry Potter?
When?
Well, I should also preface this with, I was gifted the first book by somebody for my birthday.
Okay.
And so my parents were like, fine, because the person that gave it to me was also like a super preachy person, and he didn't see anything wrong with the book. And so I got all the way to the 4th book, and I started having nightmares.
Okay, very
about
real.
The green light. And was waking up in the middle of the night screaming to not touch me with the green light. No. And that I didn't want to be killed. And my parents at that point decided that maybe this book really was bad and took it from me.
Oh, no.
And I didn't actually finish the whole series until I was about an adult.
Wow.
And my parents were like, absolutely not.
They were like, but you know what, though? I will say that, like, one of the unique things about that series is that with the group of kids that started out with it, like, I was like the same age as Harry when I read the first book, like maybe a year older than him, or a year or two older, probably like a year or two older, because I think I was going into middle school, but we were around the same age. So it's like I got to grow up with him. And by the time the last book came out, I was like a freshman in college, and Harry was like 18. So it was like we grew up with him, and the books did become more mature with more adult themes. The further you went along, they got a lot darker. So I'm not surprised at all that you had nightmares. All.
I have a very vivid imagination, so I wasn't shocked either. My mom loves to tell that story, and I just be laughing like, it's the fact that y'all thought that meant that the book really was demonic for me. If y'all want to laugh at anything, let's laugh at that.
They were like, oh no.
Right. Oh no, my daughter with the very vivid imagination. Nope, that's not the conclusion we drew. So it's like, I think about that. And then like after that with the book fair, because remember how like as we got older in the little book magazine we would get before the actual book fair, they started releasing collections.
They did. I remember that.
And it was like, Mom, can I get this collection? And it would be like, no. And I just remember begging her like so many times to get me a collection. Because when we moved to our next location, we stopped getting the Babysitters Club because my mom couldn't figure out, they wouldn't let us change our address. And then at one point, like they stopped doing the monthly book service. They wouldn't do it overseas. So it was like they would do APO, but not FPO, which again, I'll explain that one day later. But so I was like, I didn't have a book series. So then I stumbled across the Royal Diary series. And I think the
Love
first
to
one I
this
read
day.
was Kaulani, I think. I think that was it was either Kaulani or Anastasia. I can't remember which one was the first one. But I remember getting this one book because by then I had grass cutting money. So I was really balling in my mind when I showed up at the book fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember buying it and it was hardback, which means it was more expensive. So y'all really couldn't tell me nothing. And I got in trouble because that night my dad was doing his normal rounds around the house and came into my room and saw that I was not actually asleep, but I had built a fort of pillows so he couldn't see the light from my flashlight shining underneath the door.
Oh my goodness.
And then they realized, like, oh, this is a decent, like, this, it's basically just a series about different princesses if they had diaries. And then I begged my parents for another one. They bought me 2. And then that Christmas, they bought me 9 of them. And then I got in trouble again because from Christmas Day to New Year's, I read all 9 of them.
You just couldn't stop.
And so after that, my parents started giving me, like, even if I went to the book fair with my own money and bought books, like after that, my mom would take the books and give me one to read and be like, it's going to last you for 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness. She was like, look, you gonna make this stretch.
Yeah, man.
She was basically like, read less and read slower.
Yeah. Like my mom was like, I can't believe, oh my gosh, the Dear America series. That was the other one.
I was going to say.
It's the same people. And
yeah,
I think the first one I had was Color Me Dark. It was a brown book.
I think I only had 1 or 2 of those Dear America books. And I cannot remember which ones I had, which is sad. I think I remember I had A Journey to the New World.
Oh my God, I had that one too. I think I still have that one on my shelf.
On like the Mayflower or some shit. Traveling to America. And
I
then
had the one where they colonized and then forced the indigenous girls to conform to their new school. I can't remember the name of that one. I just remember that reading all of the Dear America ones were very depressing.
I was about to say all of those books were traumatic because they were about slavery, the effects of slavery and colonization. And on one side, you would be reading about the oppressor and like their people,
it was like
and then on the
side, it was the oppressor or the oppressee. You never got it. And the Titanic. Okay, so I read the Titanic one and I was so mad.
I don't know if I read the Titanic one, but I do have a very, very weird obsession with the Titanic. Like I have a lot of Titanic books on my shelf that are like the history of the Titanic, finding the Titanic, what was found in the Titanic. I thought
you were going to talk about like different fictional retellings about the story of the Titanic, not actual like.
No, I do not care about the fictional retellings. I want to know like the real deal. Like I literally have books on my shelf that detail like the guy who found it and like all the stuff they found and like little excerpts about like the captain and the crew and the musicians and all this stuff. Like I'm obsessed. It's really weird. It's like one of those weird things that I don't talk about a lot, but if you were to actually come over to my house and look on my bookshelf, you'd be like, why do you have 12 books about the Titanic?
I am genuinely like, I had no idea about this.
I don't talk about it because it's weird.
It's not weird. It's actually just very interesting. I've never heard anybody say that. This is definitely a new hobby that I've never heard of.
I can't help it.
You. I'm just really intrigued.
Every time I see a new Titanic book, I have to buy it.
So, like, currently, how much of a shelf takes up space with this particular interest?
So I decided to like sprinkle the books around so that it's not so obvious. I currently have 18 books about the Titanic.
Holy mess. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen,
sorry.
I am intrigued.
I have a book about the survivors and all the families that survived. I have a book about all the people that didn't survive. I have a book that focuses on like the wealthy people and the wealthy people versus like the working class and like where they were on the ship and how a lot of the people who died were poor people because they couldn't get out. And a lot of the workers because they were in like the boiler room and that was the first room that got flooded and they couldn't get out. So stuff like that just really fascinates me, and how like even in a disaster, classism is in place, and like the poorer you are and the lower you are on the totem pole, the higher your chances for death. And how like basically the only people that really survived the Titanic were rich people because they were able to get to the lifeboats. Just stuff like that. They
Wow.
basically left the poor people to die because they were in the lower decks, and those were the first. And you see it too in the movie, like when you watch the famous movie The Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Like he was from a different class from her, and it was so easy for them to be like, oh my goodness, like let's get on a lifeboat. And that's when she like declined the lifeboat because she couldn't find. Um,
Oh
she
yeah.
couldn't remember. She couldn't find Leonardo DiCaprio's character because he was poor and he was down at the bottom.
Oh my
And
gosh.
those are the areas that got flooded the quickest. So those people, and they were in cramped quarters. Okay, so I did not mean to start this whole entire
Technically, Leave
tangent.
No Book Behind also says that they have a Titanic obsession too, so they can
Okay,
get
good. I'm not alone. But essentially, to buy a ticket for the Titanic back then, like if you weren't rich, like it was almost impossible to get a ticket. And even the ticket for the poor, like the poor people could afford, and they were literally like cramped. Like they shoved them like 5, 6 people in a room, like one of those little tiny rooms with like 2 bunk beds. Sometimes there would be like 4 or 5 people in there because they were that desperate to start a new life. And so they would like pool all their resources, and that was the only ticket they could get, was like in the lower bunks with like 5 people in one room, 3 people in one room, stuff like that. And you can imagine when the flooding started, they couldn't get out.
Wow.
It was also in the middle of the night, so a lot of them were sleeping. So it's so interesting to read about. So interesting. But yeah, so that's my little tangent about the Titanic. How passionate I am. I could go on for days, but I won't.
Thank you for sharing. We appreciate it. I had no
Okay.
idea. We're definitely going to talk about our obsessions one of these days. But also, so apparently, Leave No Book Behind says, I didn't know that England and Canada have their own Dear series. So like
Huh.
the Dear America series, apparently there is the England is My Story and Canada's is Dear Canada. I want to look them
Wow.
up and see what their stories are, to be honest.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. Bethany says, when I was a kid, historical fiction was my jam. I also really liked the American Girl books. So I got the American Girl books because for some reason they were available at the PXs and stuff in Japan. But you know what I really wanted and what I really felt was really dirty of them to do is for American Girl to send magazines like the old Toys R Us toy magazine that used to come for Christmas. We used to also get American Girl magazines sent to us.
Those
So I could
magazines were
just circle all the
so,
things that I wanted for an Addie
oh,
doll I could never get.
oh, you would circle for days. You'd be like, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And of
Brad,
course, you
the
would
way that
never.
I had tried to convince my mom that
Mm,
the reason she should get me the actual Addie doll was
seriously.
because like I could figure out how to sew my own clothes for
I
her.
cannot. You told her that?
Because like they had her outfit from every book.
They did.
But I was especially obsessed with, I think it was Molly's blue dress, but Addie
Ooh, that
had
was
that
cute.
green holiday dress.
She did. That was a really
And
pretty dress.
I
I
was
remember that.
obsessed with that dress because not only could you get it for her, but in the magazine, you could get that dress in your size as well.
Well, you want to know something really, really sad?
What?
You cannot find the American Girl books anymore. They
No.
do not. They don't print them anymore.
They just had like a 30th or 40th anniversary, and that was the only time they had the books briefly. But I found out about it too late because I would have bought them just on
I would
principle.
have bought
Like
them
the
too.
originals.
Yeah, because like I don't know, for nostalgia, and I feel like if I ever have a daughter, I would want her to have them and read them.
Yeah. Also, I just think that they were cute stories. Like
They were.
I was obsessed. And
And
then
you know,
my two faves were Addie and Samantha. Like I was obsessed.
oh, I loved Addie, even though I hated her story. I loved Samantha, and I also really liked Felicity and Molly. Like Molly and Felicity
I
are like
liked
neck and
Molly
neck.
because I felt like she was a girl that I would actually hang out with in real life.
Molly was that girl. Like I remember that
Yes.
outfit she had with the like during the 4th of July. Do you remember the book that talks about like
Oh
the
yeah,
4th?
with the blue and white dress, the blue and
She
white outfit.
was that girl. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, I need this outfit. I need it all. Like, I
But
loved
that's why
Mom.
I hated the American Girl magazine because, we're in the military. It's 4 kids. Like, no, I'm not getting that expensive
You're not.
ass doll that can't do anything but just stand there. Because
You're
remember,
not.
like you could keep it in its like case because when
You
it got
could.
to you, it was so blessed expensive that you could like keep it in the case where it gave you a stand up thing now too. And I was like,
My mom actually did get me an American Girl doll for my 11th birthday. It was
really?
like right when I was on the cusp of like really outgrowing dolls, really, and not really playing with dolls anymore. But she got me Addie, and I remember because she came with her, oh my God, y'all, she came with her kerchief with her drinking gourd. I
Oh
kid you
my
not.
God, that's drinking gourd.
Dead serious. She came with the kerchief with the
Was
drinking
she
gourd.
wearing the pink outfit?
She was wearing the pink outfit with the
Oh my
little
gosh.
shoes and the bonnet. Remember the bonnet on her head?
Yeah, I wanted all of that because it was miniature. I felt like I needed it.
Yeah, she came with all that stuff, and I think she also came with like a sewing kit or like whatever else she needed to get to freedom, y'all, was in that little kerchief. But
Yeah, because they gave that she had a little crappy sack, not a suitcase, the sack.
yeah, it was a kerchief, sack,
Yes.
whatever you want to
Oh
call it.
man.
It was ridiculous. And I just remember like being so surprised when I got the doll because her body was made of cloth and her arms were her limbs were plastic, like her arms and legs were plastic, but her actual body was made of cloth. And I remember feeling like they still, because my mom was like, okay, this doll was very expensive. It was over $100, which back then
Wait,
if you just
are you
didn't
telling
pay.
me that super expensive doll didn't even have a full plastic body?
No, she didn't. This is what I'm trying to
What?
tell you. The scamming. Okay. I remember being so shook. I was like, because my mom was like, okay, we paid a lot of money for this. Because I had wanted an American Girl doll since I was probably like 8.
Yeah.
And she didn't buy me one till I was like growing out of dolls at 11, but whatever, it's a thought that counts. So I was excited to finally get one, but at the same time, I was like, yo, like you paid over $100 for a like doll that someone probably could make for like
I am
$50,
so disappointed.
$30. Yeah, it was insane.
Also, yes, shout out to the paper dolls. I was just about to bring that up
Yes,
because
the paper dolls.
do you remember paper dolls?
Yes, of course I
I used to
do.
draw my own paper dolls, y'all.
Me too.
And I used to sell them to the other girls and trade them for candy.
Okay, you know what? You have always been entrepreneurial because me and my brother would just make them and then play with them in our room, and we would get so mad when my mom would come and clean our room because me and my brother shared a room till I was like 10 or so, and she would come and clean our room and throw all our paper dolls away. We would be
The
devastated.
way that was the most disrespectful thing because to draw them and then draw the tabs perfectly,
Yes.
you could attach them. Man,
And we'd be like, oh my God. And then we'd be like, I can't recreate that. Like we would have such an emotional attachment to these dolls. We'd be like, I can't, because my mom would just be like, you can make a new one. And we're like, no, we can't.
I just remember because like it was like before my sisters were old enough to start copying everything that I did. It was like the one time that I would like lay out all of my art supplies on the table. And like I just would be drawing outfits, jeans, shirts. I started copying the outfits because the American Girl magazine did have them, but the problem was if I didn't put them back in the Ziploc bag
Oh no.
that my mom had set aside for them, she would
Getting
throw
thrown
them
out.
away.
Parents are vicious,
So,
man.
right.
Like, they just don't get it. It's like, you don't even understand. Like, this is like a work of art to us. This
It
is our
was a work of
creative,
art.
like,
Man, I had
creativity
whole
coming through.
storylines. I would read the book, like, say for example, if book 4 of Addie came out, literally would reenact that.
Oh yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I drew her brothers, her parents, everybody.
Also, this is
there.
a really unrelated segue, but can we talk about how upset I was when Addie and her mom were reunited with their brother and father, and the brother had lost an arm in the war? I was traumatized.
I like as soon as we started talking about American Girls, I thought about that and I was like, I'm not gonna bring it up because I feel like
So sorry.
all of us were genuinely probably like, oh my gosh.
Like that was for me, like being so young and being like exposed to something like that happening. It's like,
It's
what
like
is
now that
going
I'm
on?
older, it makes total sense. But when I was younger, I was not okay when I read
Not
that part.
okay. I was
I was
like,
like, this is
wait.
traumatizing. I mean, I didn't know that then, but I was clearly traumatized.
It was like,
And
wait,
you know,
what
they
happened
ended up
to
they
his
wrote it like
arm?
this is real life. This could definitely happen.
We were so shook. We were like, what's going on here? Why doesn't he have his
Right.
arm anymore?
Because I was just like, but everybody else's siblings are fully intact. And
Fully
Addie
intact.
didn't even have hers for like a video or for like 2 books.
Seriously. Oh, while we're on the subject of American Girl, so an American Girl that no one ever talks about is Kirsten.
I
Remember
like
Kirsten?
Kirsten, but Kirsten goes right up your alley.
I actually really liked Kirsten. They never like she's the least talked about American Girl to me.
She is.
But I just remember really liking Kirsten because I was really obsessed with the Little House on the Prairie books. They were in
Oh,
the same like era, like
she was
Kirsten's
definitely the Little
family,
House on the Prairie
like
American Girl.
coming from Sweden and like going to the frontier and like adopting all these American traditions. It was giving me Little House on the Prairie vibes, like Pa and Ma and Laura and Mary and their little covered wagon traveling to the west. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's like,
Which
no, no.
now, if you go back and try to read the Little House on the Prairie books, which I own them all now, and I tried to go back and read them, and they're really hard to read because of the
Oh,
racism against Native people, Indigenous people,
oh,
and the
yeah.
way that they slaughter the animals is so graphic. They're like, and then we pulled out the entrails and
Listen,
wrung out the
Leave No Book
insides.
Behind said it best. Them older historical fiction books did not play. They did not shy away from topics
No.
that, you know, children's books would be like abhorred nowadays, but they did not shy away from these things.
Because I'm literally trying to reread the series, right? And like I get to a chapter and it's like, we can't have those Indians. And they're calling Indians Indians, which is we're not even supposed to, they're
Oh
not even Indians.
God. Oh
They're
God,
native
I forgot
people,
how bad that was.
indigenous people. Then they're like the xenophobia. I'm like, y'all are on their land. Do you understand that we're building homes and being like, oh, I bought this homestead for 5 pieces of gold. But there was a whole tribe living here
Yeah,
before
it's
you
like you
came.
bought it from who? Because they didn't have a right to sell it to you.
And now y'all have the audacity to be in your cabin like, we're so scared and we heard a noise and they said the Indians are like very savage around here. I'm like, I wonder why. If someone just moved into your house and was like, my house now,
I
wouldn't you
just
be a little bit upset?
a
So it
little
just
bit, you know, I think
is
they might have a little bit of a right. I don't know. It might be me.
it's crazy reading it now because you're just like, I tried, like, I couldn't make it past the first book. I just had to skip to like the later books where it's about Laura and her husband, Alonzo. I had to skip ahead because I was like, yo, these first books are rough. It's like, oh, I'm not going to make it. I got to skip.
Let's see. I just found the whole Little House on the Prairie books in my curriculum closet that the principal let me take home, and I'm literally side eyeing them right now. Little House on the Prairie was required reading at some point.
It was.
It
It totally
was.
was.
It
And
was. But I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird was on the list until very recently. So
yeah, they finally were like, you know what? Let's just take this down
I was like,
quietly.
y'all can't
We're
think
not
of
going to
no
announce
other
it.
books to talk about race. None. You can't think of none.
Well, they were basically just like, it's that place where a book doesn't stand the test of time that way. And you're just like, this is actually kind of offensive. So we should probably take this off the
I
list.
just laugh at all of it now. I'm like,
Like, we really thought we were doing something back in the day, but we were not.
yeah.
So,
There was a page where they were like, we give stuff to the engines, but lock up the meat shed because who knows what those engines will. Bruh, I just can't get over the engines part.
it was
Like,
just so crazy. I mean, it was jarring because I tried to reread them. Probably it was probably like 2015, 16 when I collected them all, and it sat on my shelf for a year, and then one Saturday afternoon I was bored and I picked it up trying to get back the nostalgia that I used to feel, and I was shaken to my core. I didn't even make it past chapter 1. I was like,
jeez.
okay.
You were like, this is a lot.
I was like, I guess these are just going to be collector's items because I cannot see myself actually rereading these. And it's like, what if I had kids, would I give it to them to read? I feel like it's one of those books where if they wanted to read them, I would let them, but we would have to have discussions after like every
You
chapter. I feel
said,
like,
no. You will not be reading these blind and going on about your business. You
no, we'd be like,
will
all right,
talk
so
about this.
let's talk about the racism and xenophobia in this
Like, let's talk
chapter.
about all the ways this was inappropriate.
It's like, all right, so let's talk about the blatant misogyny and sexism that Pa shows towards every woman in his life, even though he has a family full of women.
I'm trying not to
Let's
laugh, but
talk about
facts.
that. Let's talk about how women are viewed as property. Let's go. Let's talk about how Mary was viewed as damaged goods when she went blind
Oh my gosh.
after she got really sick and got that fever. Let's talk about that. Like, I would have to be like,
Your kids would be like, Mom, if we choose to read this book, will we have to have a conversation?
right. They'd be like, never mind, we don't want
to
to read
have
it.
conversations. We just want to read.
They'd be like, you know what? Never mind, Mom. We're not going to read these.
Right. You're going to be the main reason they turned away from reading.
Well, I mean, I don't believe in censorship. Like, read what you want to read. I don't want to, because I feel like that's a slippery slope. But I do feel like there are a lot of books that are very problematic in that they have themes that are either outdated or show prejudice or racism, or just not, they just don't stand the test of time with how we've progressed as a society. I still think that they have a place as teaching tools, but you have to have those discussions, you know?
Right. I mean, I agree. I'm still one of those people where I feel like we don't need to take all of these books out of the curriculum. We need to be allowed to have the conversations that should come with these books. So if you're not willing to have the conversation, then yeah, these books should be taken off the curriculum list. But if you want to have the conversations that we should be having, yeah, because some of these people really be out here acting like it's crazy to
I
want to
know.
talk about, the racism.
I know. I just remember in school, it would always be really uncomfortable when you were like, let's say, if you were in honors classes a lot of times you would be the only person of color in the room or one of a very few.
Yep.
And being asked to be the voice of your race in a classroom when your like cognitive functions have not fully formed is really stressful.
Or how like once you got to American history or American literature, US literature, I don't know what grade that happens in the States, but in Dodd schools, that is your senior year English
Hmm.
class.
Hmm.
And all the books were Charles Dickens. Um, it was basically all the famous old white English authors.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think there was like the N word every chance available.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's like,
always
what
something
is
terrible
happening?
about the indigenous community. Everything you could think of was in these books. And like, I would hate when they would be like, oh, we're going to read this part out loud. Do we have to?
Oh, yes. The out loud, like the reading out loud, and it's like paragraph by paragraph, and you're just cringing because you're just sitting there and you're by yourself having to endure this bullshit. And it's like, why
Yeah,
am
because it's
I
like
here?
people were mad about the people who read slow. I was mad because we were going to get to a section where we're going to have that word. And
Hmm.
it's obviously never going to be on a Black person when it's that time to read because there's only 3 of us and we've already read.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there like, oh
You
my
just have
God,
to sit in there and listen to it. And it's
like,
just,
am I going to have to fight this kid?
it's literally traumatizing. And I think that it's so interesting because I feel like we go through so many traumas as kids just in school, like having to endure this like extremely Eurocentric curriculum that you don't even realize it till you become an adult and you're just like, wow, that was horrible. Like I had to sit in class while we read about the Civil War and about slavery, and the way that it was like presented to us was so disgusting and like so false, and we just had to sit there and listen to it. And then we had to be quizzed on it and take tests on it. This is crazy. It's the highest form of gaslighting.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
really is. And you don't even realize it till you're older. You're like, that was really messed up. Like, that was not okay
I
at
can't
all.
even. It's like I can't even really blame teachers. They don't get paid enough, so.
They don't. And it's like, what are you going to do? Like, that's the curriculum. You have to teach the curriculum. But it's just, no one thinks about like the kids who aren't being centered and the kids who, it's like when you have to read a story every day and the story is not about you.
What
And
makes you
your
think
place in the
it's
story is as
okay?
someone who is less than and subjugated. Who wants to read that story every day? I don't.
Yeah.
But that's the only story available. That's the only story you get to read. And you read it every day. It's like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Leave no book behind said in 11th grade honors, this kid said the word after everyone else skipped it with the hard ER and then laughed. My honors class was full of Black girls and we all wanted to be.
Oh
That's
Lord.
what I'm saying. It's like I would prefer they just like if they don't want to handle the conversations with the sensitivity that they're needed, just take the books completely off the list until a teacher can handle it.
I
Because there's
agree.
no way that that kid should have been able to laugh and not get in trouble for laughing.
And it's also just, I don't know, like you really start to see in school like who perpetuates this stuff into the next generation, because people are like, oh well, we're so advanced now as a society and like racism is going to die out. And I'm like, no, it won't, because there are people who perpetuate it. Because if a kid can come to school, someone whose opinions in life have not been fully formed and they don't have that many life experiences can come to school and do something like that, there's a reason. Like someone in their household is basically upholding that behavior is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel no remorse, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of used to it now. And I'm going to refrain from going on a tangent today because, we're in the throwback zone. So, I
Yeah.
mean, thank y'all for coming to this chat, but I want to tell you guys about something that we're doing on Thursday. So, we're still doing our Thursday night chill moments, and we decided for Throwback-a-thon, we're doing some TV standoffs.
Yes.
So, I
So
think the
excited about
first
this.
TV standoff is the old 90s Disney tunes versus the old 90s Nicktoons.
Mm.
So basically, we'll just be in here capping for our favorite stuff. It's
Yes.
nothing serious. I just think we're just going to probably laugh for about an hour. I feel like next week's TV standoff is going to be far more intense. Um, and I'm not going to reveal what the verses is for that one, but I think we should be a good chat. That'll be on Thursday at 7. However, because it's Throwback-a-thon, we will also be doing reading sprints on Wednesday evening. So if you want to come join us and read for maybe an hour or so, you can definitely come back. I posted all of we scheduled all of the stuff for Throwback-a-thon. You will see the very loud thumbnails going across your feed. If you follow us, you can set the reminders for all of those. As of right now, obviously, we'll be reminding you every day. Also, for the people in the comments, are you participating in Throwback-a-thon this year? If so, are you doing the bonus challenges? Are you reading at all? Are you doing the Instagram things? Like, I would like to know these questions.
Me too. I'm very curious. I haven't done the Instagram prompts yet. I know yesterday's was what was yesterday's?
Who's your favorite American girl?
Who's your favorite American girl? And then today's I'm really excited about because it's to take photos of the books that you got from the Scholastic Book Fair. And I have like a bunch of books. And I'm already like thinking after I get off this podcast how I'm going to take that photo. I'm excited.
Yeah, I
It's
only
just the
have the
fun
Royal
part.
Diaries and the Dear America. I think I have like 4 Dear America books. That's it. But I don't feel like taking pictures of them right now. So I'm gonna cop out. Like that's just the real moment. Because I'm in the middle of drawing. Like I've been drawing this whole time that we're talking. Because I mean Oshley knows this, but drawing for the planner is very mentally stressful for me. And so like when I have the urge to draw, I have to draw. And
I
so that's
feel
what I'm doing.
you gotta strike while inspiration is hot.
Basically, and Lord knows I've got we have to draw 14 pieces of art for the planner again, while also drawing stuff for actual releases throughout the year of other things. So, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and I don't know how you do it. I really
Lots
don't.
of tears.
Lots of tears. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, lots of tears.
Oh my goodness.
It's like I'm trying
Like
to
I will.
remember to record when I'm doing stuff because people want to see the process. But listen, there are some nights where I be here just ugly snot crying.
Oh my gosh, really?
And I don't want to share that on Beyonce's internet because the internet is forever.
The internet is forever. It is indeed.
And people are cruel, and we don't want that. We don't want it. But also, have you started reading any books for Throwbackathon?
No.
Okay, well,
I'm gonna start. Honestly, I probably won't get a chance to start until either tomorrow night or Wednesday night during the reading sprint because I have a lot to do after work this week and I don't want to be stressed. And it's interesting because my reading time during the week is usually right when I wake up in the morning because I'll usually wake up around like 5:30 and then I have a chance to read for at least 30 minutes.
oh, okay, well, hopefully you get some in the morning.
I'm thinking of starting with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which I think I'm going to choose for my kids on an adventure prompt because it was either that or the mixed up files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, and I put a poll up and it was literally like neck and neck. Nobody could
Of course
choose.
it was.
So I think I'm leaning more towards Charlie and the Chocolate Factory because I want to read it and then watch the movie.
Which movie though? That's the important question here.
I really like the old one, like the original one, because that was the one I watched when I was a kid.
Yeah, the Johnny Depp one creeped me out.
The Johnny Depp one is not for me. I don't want to offend anyone, so I will say no more. But it's not for me.
It's just creepy. It's
not for me. I prefer the original, the old school one. The grandpa is so much more lovable in the old one. The little boy really embodies Charlie to me. So yeah.
Okay.
What we going with, sorry.
Well, we hope you guys come back on Wednesday for the reading sprints.
Yes.
We haven't done a reading sprint since Naked, I think.
It's been a long time since we've done them, so I'm excited that we get a chance to like read together pretty soon.
Yeah. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Okay. Well, I mean, if we've got no more comments, thank y'all for coming to hang out with us in our random talks. These are my favorite things to record because it doesn't require much prep at all.
They're just fun.
Yeah.
All right. And we will see y'all on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Happy reading. Happy Throwbackathon.
Bye.
Bye.